if you've written a book and you've had somebody come to you and say, that's not how that works about something you've written in the book, is that something you need to worry about? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. If you are an expert in that area, if you have done your research, if you've heavily looked into these different things, if you've checked with different experts, if you put the work in and you know that you know what you're talking about, you don't need to worry about it. Oftentimes those people will come in with the intent to tear you down because they don't like you. They will come with their experiences that they fully believe everyone else has to have the exact same experience and nobody can do things differently. Or they're going to come in with misinformation where they've heard something and then they're making inferences, or they just think that they're smart enough to know how these things work and they're just giving you advice kind of as an armchair expert, even though they don't actually know what they're talking about. And we see this happen a lot in book reviews. But the other side of it is, if it is an expert, somebody who does know more than you, and they say something's up, now is the time to do your research, time to look into it. Do not proceed, do not pass go until you've done better research on this. So if you know you've put the work and effort in, or this is something that you are well-versed in, you probably don't need to worry about it. If it's something that somebody is very well-versed in, they are like a legitimate expert, not I think I'm an expert, but a legitimate expert, then maybe it's time for you to do a little bit more research before you proceed with this one. So for example, I wrote The Goose Girl and the Artificial. It is about AI. I wrote this several years ago. I have been a person who is very much techie when it comes to my stories. And I had a girl who saw it before it was out, and she is kind of techie, a little techie in very specific areas. And she said, this is horrible. This is not how AI works. You shouldn't have written this. And like, it was very negative. She was somebody who was very angry with me at the time. She decided she didn't want to be friends anymore. And so she was actively trying to tear me down. She was trying to be nasty, but she also fully believed that I didn't know what I was writing. Now, I'm a techie person. I teach technology professionally. I've been working with AI for years, well before it became popular. And so I did know what I was talking about. And when I got that feedback from her, it wasn't even feedback, it was just being nasty, a little note from her. And I checked myself. I said, did I do something wrong? Did I write something incorrectly? And I went back and I checked what I was doing. Keep in mind, this is also futuristic. It was sci-fi dystopian book. And so there was nothing wrong with it. It was as it should be for the technology, for what was going on, for how things worked, well before the general public knew really what an AI was or how AIs function. And so I was very confident in moving forward with it. It still holds. It's still a very good book if you want to read about AI. That's the one. But I've also experienced this in other ways. I read a book once that was like a contemporary YA book, and they were doing typical teenage things like babysitting, and they were just completely incompetent characters. And I said, what parent would trust these incompetent teenagers to babysit their kids? They were doing such ridiculous things, and that was colored by my own experience. Also, some practicality. I don't think any adult would leave those teenagers in charge of children ever, much less on a consistent basis. But it was very much colored by my babysitting, by my friends babysitting, by working with kids, by being I was a teacher, guys, when I read this. I was a fully licensed certified teacher, and there was just so much that was so wrong and made no sense inside of the story, but it was colored by my experience. And maybe that author had that experience of being that type of person and doing those types of things when she was young and a babysitter. I don't know. I didn't ask the questions, but it was very much colored by my perspective and by my awareness of working with children and parents being responsible. But I've seen that happen again and again in different iterations. We look at things from our own perspective, and a lot of people will say, well, this was my experience with this, and this was my experience with that, so it has to be everyone's experience. And we don't take into consideration people can have different experiences. And of course, with the babysitting example, it was a little more practical than personal experience because it was just a safety issue. But all of those things color what we've done. So when you get feedback like that, you need to look at it practically. You need to look at it realistically. Is this something where I did mess up, or I did something that just isn't logical or I can't do? Or is this somebody being nasty? Is this somebody with misinformation? Is this somebody who's just speaking out of turn to be mean? Is this somebody who just doesn't get it and is making inferences and making connections that they don't have established information on? And making your choices from there. If it's something that pings inside of you and says, uh-oh, check with more people. You don't have to just say something is wrong or I am right. Check with other people. If there's any like ping of check with other people. Ask for feedback from other people to see where it stands. If it's just one person, maybe we don't need to worry about it. If it's a lot of people, maybe we need to worry about it. Even if you are an expert, if a lot of people ping, that's something that maybe we need to look at. Maybe we didn't explain it well enough for the lay person to understand. So you have to put the work and effort into it, but don't panic just because somebody says, that's not how it works. That happens in every book that you write. You're going to get that a lot from people, especially if you read your reviews. Drop your questions down below and follow along for daily videos helping you navigate the world of your publishing to save yourself a lot of stress during your writing and your publishing and your marketing and all these things, because there are just some things that you don't need to worry about. We'll see you in tomorrow's video.